All right, guys. Biden family meeting in Camp David right now to try to determine whether Joe Biden should stay in the race or not. I have amazing news from there. Developments that'll shock you. They literally shocked me. And I've been in this business a long time. So I'm going to tell you about that in a minute. So, but just the background on this obviously, the debate went terribly for Joe Biden. Everybody knows this. At this point, if you still don't know that Joe Biden should drop out and that he's not the best candidate for the Democrats, congratulations. You're part of Blue MAGA. Now you have your own cult. Fun for you. So then you'll say, oh, no, Joe Biden's great. I saw him. He looked like a young whippersnapper and fighting an alley cat or whatever you think in your cult, and that he's the best candidate. That the Democrats have no one better. The Democrats have no one who could finish a sentence. That's just the most outrageous thing I've ever heard. It means you basically think the Democratic Party is the worst party you've ever seen in your life, and you don't mind if Trump loses it all. You got to pick. Do you mind? Is this the most important election of our lifetimes? Or do you care more about Joe Biden's feelings and you don't want to offend the feelings of the powerful? Or, my God, Jill Biden, as we're about to talk about, or Hunter Biden. He's apparently involved. Okay, so now more details. They say this family gathering was planned from before. That's true. Okay. And now in the very last report from the New York Times, they're saying, well, they didn't talk as much as they wanted to because there was other people around. You guys don't have a private room in Camp David that you guys can all get together. But now here comes the worst part. They're saying, well, the worst part's at the end. The second to worst part, he's not listening to his advisors. He's not listening to the top political people he has. He's not listening to the polls. He's not listening to anyone except family. That's the disastrous part. I'm going to get to that iceberg in a second. Let me give you other icebergs we've already run into. So CBS YouGov poll out, 72% of Americans think that Joe Biden is not mentally healthy enough to run. If 72% of the country thinks your mind is not working, I got news for you. You're not going to win. But apparently, Blue MAGA's mind is not working because they're like, oh, that stat doesn't mean anything. How could it not mean anything? That's 7 out of 10 Americans think that you're almost brain dead, that you are not literally, the quote is mentally not healthy enough to be president. What part of that is complicated? But I don't know. We're going to find out what Jill Biden and Hunter Biden think about that in a second. So, by the way, shows, Monday through Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern. You got to catch this show live. Like, there's so much energy, so many things going on. And that's where I could involve you guys more. Right now, if you become a member, great. Hit the join button below. Your super chats, I'll try to get to them. But in the live show, Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock Eastern, we're going to give all the details for you. But now let me give you more polling. 72% from that same poll say, you know what? It turns out that we think you shouldn't run. Again, 7 out of 10 Americans say, Joe Biden, please don't run, including 46% of Democrats, his own party, saying, please, please, please get out of the race, please. But apparently Jill and Hunter will decide this in a minute. So first of all, Benjamin Gilbert Liff, you're an American hero as always. Asking about Kamala Harris, I'm going to get to her in a second. Plenty of good news on the Kamala Harris front, not because she's good, but because she's not relevant. Okay. So, and I'll explain why she's not relevant. Now, more data. Polymarket's one of our sponsors. They've got prediction markets. That's where people put their money where their mouth is. So, they're not just spouting off. They're not just a troll or a bot. This is like real, and markets oftentimes determine things way better. Okay. Biden in those markets dropping like a rock. Okay. The election forecast, he was already losing before, and I've given you a couple of updates on it, but he was in the 40s for a while. Then he dropped into the 30% likely to win. Right now, 63, or just actually yesterday after the debate, 63-22. Let me check right now. No, 62-19. Okay, so it's even lower. So you could say, oh, people don't know anything. I know. Polls don't know anything. People using their money don't know anything. Advisors don't know anything. Only the demigod Jill Biden apparently knows everything and would love to be president. Benjamin, thank you for the 50 Young Turks memberships gifted. You're amazing, brother. I appreciate all you guys. I appreciate you, brother. So now, how about the chances of Biden dropping out? At polymarket.com, it was at 22%. And I told you in another one of these videos I do on the weekends, I think that's too low. You only think there's 22% chance of Biden dropping out? Boom, after the debate, jumped to 34. Let me check on it now. Now up to 44. It's going up by the minute because people are like, they're watching the clips of him going, we defeated Medicare. On that alone. What do you mean? What do you mean you defeated Medicare? On that alone, you got to drop him. How could you not see this? So now part of the reason Joe Biden can't see it is because he's obviously got some sort of dementia. If that still offends you and you're not offended that Donald Trump is going to win, what am I going to do with you? You don't mind Donald Trump winning because you don't want to offend Joe Biden's ego? Then stop saying it's an important election. Stop saying that you hate Donald Trump. Stop saying that he's going to bring fascism. Don't talk about Project 2025 because you don't care at all. You just care about the feelings of the powerful. You'd have to be absolutely nuts to keep this guy in the race. So can he be dropped easily? Super easily. Now, look, he has to agree to it. Otherwise, you're going to need a delegate revolt. But it's like, that's why the Jill Hunter and Joe Biden conversation is the most important thing. But if you can get him to say yes, people are like, oh, well, then it's going to be a mess. No, it's not. You go to a convention, you have the convention just like you had every year until 1972. It's a very normal convention where the delegates decide who the candidate's going to be. Would I prefer that they had a healthy primary? Of course, I was in the primary. Of course, I would have rather that they had a healthy, real primary and we all had a real chance and then you picked a real candidate. But that ship has sailed. What has not sailed is Biden being the nominee. You could easily pick someone else in the convention. Does Kamala Harris get those get any of Biden's delegates normally, naturally? No. She's just the vice president of the United States. It has nothing to do with the candidacy. So first of all, Dead Rocket, thank you, brother. So would Kamala not be a repeat of 1968? Unpopular incumbent doesn't run and VP does. No. Again, she has no claim to those delegates. None. In fact, if Joe Biden told his delegates, I really want you to pick Kamala, which he would never do. He doesn't like Kamala Harris. His whole entire administration has no faith in her. I would be shocked if they said you should pick Kamala Harris. But even if he did, it's just a suggestion. The delegates, according to the bylaws of the DNC, are not bound to Biden's suggestion at all. Kamala Harris has zero power in this. Now, what she can do is she can go and run at the convention, just like anybody can. And she can make her case. Now, remember, they're Biden delegates. She's the vice president for Biden. So if she's a competent, great politician who could win the general campaign, great. Then she'll go and she'll win the delegates over and she'll do whatever she needs to do to get that win and prove herself. And then we'll rest assured that we have a strong candidate against Trump. But you and I all know that unless it's handed to her, she has no chance of winning it because she also has no chance of beating Donald Trump in the general election. But good news, tons of Democrats do. Governor Whitmer in Michigan, Governor Shapiro in Pennsylvania. You could argue Governor Newsom in California, Governor Beshear in Kentucky, Jamie Raskin, Ro Khanna. I can go on for days and days. There's tons of people that are better than Biden. Again, to say that there's no one better than Biden is to say that the Democratic Party is so terrible that a guy with dementia is our top candidate. I mean, if you watch the debate, there's no argument at all. Benjamin, again, thank you for the super chat. You're awesome, brother. And so, yeah, I mean, look, that's the situation here. We're worried about, is this a Feinstein? And to Benjamin's comment, right? Who's actually making the decisions if he's got some form of dementia? And obviously, he has some form of Parkinson's, dementia, whatever it is, but he's losing his train of thought in the most important times. And we all saw it with our own eyes. George Orwell quote that is so telling. Orwell, the genius that he is, said, the party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. And that is exactly what the Democratic Party is telling us to do now. They're going to lose every piece of credibility they ever had is going to be gone. And that's great. Remember the people who lied to you. We were honest with you from day one. We told you 9 months ago Joe Biden has to drop out. We did a petition. It's still on our website, tyt.com/campaign/dropout. We'll put the link in the description box below later. You can easily click on it. You sign the petition, but you guys already sent me in. Why did I run for president in a desperation campaign that had such little chance of working? It wasn't for me to win. It was to push Biden down. 76% of our paying members. That's why the guys who joined, you're the core of our audience. We listen to you guys. 3/4 of you said, Cenk, at whatever cost, it doesn't matter. Go run. So I did. Why? Because you guys were 100% right. He had no chance of winning. He obviously was in mental decline. And apparently we were the only ones not in a cult. We were the only ones attached to objective reality that could see it. independent conversation. Thank you. No, she doesn't have to for the super chat and to answer his question. Kamala Harris doesn't have to agree to anything. She would still be the vice president. If something were to happen to Joe Biden, and he, for example, if he were to drop out from being president, then Kamala Harris would become the president, obviously. But the presidency has nothing to do with the campaign. She is not the candidate. And since Joe Biden is technically not the candidate yet, she's not the vice presidential candidate yet. So she has no power, no nothing. None of the delegates go to her. She's got to win them. She's and earn them just like anyone else. So somewhat Cajun, thank you. And look, I'm reading these real quick, but talking about a family member who had Alzheimer's. I said this on Friday. I have a family member who has Alzheimer's. The idea that I would put him up in a debate in front of a national TV audience, that's despicable. Despicable. I would never allow him to get embarrassed like that. So that leads us finally to Jill and Hunter Biden. So Jill Biden, the number one decision maker, according to NBC News and New York Times. And guys, since you see Joe Biden being led around by Jill step by step, and she's constantly like putting out tweets about how she's preparing for the G7 summit, and they had an article about how she interviews cabinet level officials to see if they're going to make it into the cabinet. Sometimes when people are applying to the White House for senior positions, she interviews them alone. Who the hell's in charge here? So if Jill Biden's the president, we should know. We have a right to know. So apparently she's an unbelievable egomaniac. So she's like, no, stay in the race, Joe. I don't know about you, but I'm still young enough to make sure that we can win here and run the country. You think you love Joe Biden and you're subjecting him to this? And we're all supposed to listen to Dr. Jill Biden? So according to the New York Times last report from the Camp David family meeting, now they're trying to shift away from Jill Biden because they realize, oh my God, people are finding out that Jill Biden is in charge. That's bad. That's bad. Oh, you stop that reporting, okay? So they said, well, the advisors are a huge problem, but don't worry. Cenk's not listening. I mean, Cenk. I just saw Cenk there. That's why I said it. Biden's not listening to them. So who's it listening to? And wait, if it's not Jill and it's not the advisors, who is it? They're now reporting Hunter Biden is in charge. Oh my God. Oh my God. So is he in charge of the White House? No, of course not. Is he in charge of the government? Of course not. No. But New York, it's not me. New York Times saying the primary person that Joe Biden is listening to about this monumental decision that is going to affect the whole country, that is going to affect all of us, is Hunter freaking Biden. The Ukrainian gas expert is deciding whether we're going to have a senile man as the candidate. The guy, look, I don't want to say it. Don't make me say it. He was on crack 2 minutes ago. He's now currently theoretically a modern artist. The modern artist is going to decide the fate of this country. I defended the Hunter Biden, Joe Biden connection. I didn't defend Hunter Biden. He's an obvious con man, right? But I said he's not connected to Joe Biden. So why are the Republicans riding him, right? But apparently Hunter Biden is making the decisions, monumental decisions. And think about it. What does Hunter Biden want? He doesn't care a goddamn about his dad. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know, and I don't care. But I do know that Hunter Biden now has a giant interest in his dad staying in power. Because of legal issues, because of financial issues, Hunter Biden makes way more money when Joe Biden is in power. I don't think he tells Joe Biden what to do on policy. I've never seen any reporting about that. I've never seen any evidence of that. I don't think that Joe Biden is involved in any of his scams. But now we've got a giant question mark. If the New York Times is reporting that Hunter Biden is the main guy that Joe Biden is listening to, not political advisors, not the American people, doesn't care about any of that. And he's a stubborn old man who won't listen to anyone other than Jill Biden, who's an egomaniac and wants to stay in power herself, and Hunter Biden, who is who the hell's Hunter Biden? Who is Hunter Biden? What is his expertise? Is theoretically Ukrainian gas and modern art. Why is he involved in the conversation? Okay, look, it's one thing if, hey, look, I talked to all the top experts in the country. I talked to James Carville, David Axelrod, trying to figure out why they're so concerned. I looked at the polling. I talked to all my advisors. I asked people at Young Turks internally all the time for advice, counsel, direction. And I asked them a million questions. They come up with all these brilliant ideas. That's how you're supposed to lead. That's how you're supposed to be a team. Biden isn't doing any of that. That already shows terrible leadership. Awful, god-awful leadership. But on top of that, He's only talking to his family. Like, if you ask your family on the side, of course, nobody's going to say, hey, don't ever ask Jill Biden. That's crazy. Okay, yeah, you ask Hunter Biden over bacon and eggs. I wouldn't take it too seriously. I wouldn't, I'd take it with a lot of grain of salt on those eggs, right? I'm not saying don't talk to him, but he's the main guy helping you make the decision. Guys, we're screwed. We're screwed. And look, I'll guarantee you a number of things for you guys. And we will have up-to-date reporting Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, as we do every day, Monday through Friday. Make sure you're catching the live show. And look, guys, you members were right all along. Be part of the team. Hit the join button. And let's be brave and tell the truth together, no matter what happens. And by the way, a lot of things have happened to us. A lot of what is now Blue MAGA has left. And let's be honest. And I knew that. You think I didn't know that? And we see it with our own eyes. But we are not going to lie to you, even if you want us to. We're not going to do it. So we're not going to tell you that Joe Biden is healthy. We're not going to tell you that he looks young, that he's a dynamo behind the scenes. What an absurd, maniacal thing to say. Right now, this lunatic known as Keith Olbermann is losing his mind, going around, oh, no, Biden is the best candidate there is. Okay, no, I have no interest in being in a cult. I don't care if it makes me $1 million, 10 million, 100 million. I don't care. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to tell you, oh, yeah, Biden, what a great candidate. He's got this figured out. He's the best we got. No, he's a disaster. He's a mess. And if 72% of Americans think that he's not in his right mind anymore, he has a 0% chance of winning. Zero. It's not hyperbole. You cannot have 7 out of 10 Americans think that you are not mentally healthy enough to be president and win the election. That's not a thing. That's not a thing. This is like absolute late stage empire stuff where you wheel out a guy who is no longer mentally capable and you pretend that the Mad King is totally fine. And then the rest of the media, then now even the media is not on board anymore. But for 9 straight months, they were like, no, the king has clothes, the emperor has clothes on, the emperor has clothes on. We will do gaslighting and propaganda on behalf of the emperor. Remember, deference to authority and obedience is way more important than winning, way more important than ideology or policy or anything that helps you. No, obedience is the most important thing. Wrong. Obedience is a disaster. Stop listening to the people who lied to you. Stop listening to Hunter frickin' Biden. Who the hell is Jill Biden? Who stop listening to people that don't have any idea what they're doing. So I want to thank all of you guys as always. William Hill, thank you for joining. William hit the join button below. Thank you to Yabbits for the super chat. I missed so many of you guys on the super chat. Sorry about that. Look, he's talking about how FDR would do weekly appearances. Joe Biden is not even doing any interviews. Why? Because he's not capable of it. And guys, last thing, they knew it all along. His advisors wouldn't let him do the softball interview of the Super Bowl all the way back in February. His advisors wouldn't let him do press conferences, wouldn't let him do interviews, wouldn't let him do any of these events. Why? Because he's not a dynamo behind the scenes. He's a disaster behind the scenes. In fact, Axios in the middle of the weekend, that his advisors say, no, he's usually very lucid between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Oh, the president is able to think for a quarter of the day. That seems really reassuring. I'm glad you guys put that message out there. Like you thought that was going to comfort us. So we've got a president who can think for a quarter of the day, and the entire Democratic establishment is trying to gaslight you into thinking he should stay in the race and he's the absolute best candidate to go against Trump. These are crazy times. None of that is true. It's not even close to true. All right, John Herlin, thank you so much. And look, on Monday, we'll talk more about potential real candidates that could win, like Whitmer, Shapiro, the governors, Raskin, etc. We'll get into those conversations because we need to pick a new candidate immediately. See you Monday at 6 o'clock.